You had a moment in life, I can remember, you cut all your hair.
Oh, yes.
What was the reason for that?
Does it give you some sort of fear within yourself, knowing what happened to you when you was younger?
Do you believe a person have to be ready-made for you?
A man watching this and looking for the right way to approach.
He'll run away.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Talk Podcast. Here with us on this episode, we have Miss Danneil Abraham. She is very known on stage, I should say, known for her dancing. I don't know how many years you're doing dancing. I know it just comes natural. Apart from that, I also know that you are a nurse. And there's many more that we can discuss, but I would like you to introduce yourself.
Okay. First off, thank you very much for having me on the Talk Podcast. Today I'll be sharing my perspective and journeys on the various topics. I'm hoping that my journey and my perspective can be able to motivate, inspire, and encourage who is watching. My name is Danneil Abraham. I'm an energetic, enthusiastic, motivated young lady, also very determined. At the current moment, I'm working at the St. Eustatius Healthcare Foundation as a POH, but that's in Dutch. That's abbreviation for Praktijk Ondersteuner Huisarts, which can also be equivalent to a specialized nurse or nurse practitioner. They are ideal mainly with patients with chronic illnesses, so diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, elderly care, the list goes on and on. We could dive into that a little later if you all would like. What do I like to do? I love to travel. I also love to dance. I do have different parts of my personality. I'm also, if you get to know me a bit, I also have a adventurous side. So I love adventure. I love nature. Wow. And I have the ground inside of me where I like to journal. I love self-growth. I always looking to become the best version of myself. And I have now picked up a new and profound journey, and that is getting to know the Most High on a spiritual level. And it is going amazing so far. Every time I talk about it, it's just, it really is an amazing journey for me because I have transitioned so much in spirituality. And now this is where I think this is it for me because it gives a different feel completely. And I'm willing to discuss all of that.
Well, you really express a lot. And when I say a lot, it's like a lot of deep topics that you can go through in different angles.
Yes, correct.
More in depth, I should say. When it comes to about you, what draw you to becoming a nurse?
Okay, first off, to becoming a nurse, as a young child, I always enjoyed taking care of people. I just had people would say a calling for it. I just always had that. Also, my mom is a nurse. I have aunts that are nurses, so it kind of like is a family thing. My sister is a nurse. Yeah. So it's like, But initially, first, I didn't want to become a nurse. Initially, I wanted to become a gynecologist. The second option was midwife. Yeah. But due to the fact that I had my daughter at an early age, I got pregnant at 16 and I had my daughter at 17. I just say, hey, I will set up something in the medical field. And when I did that, I had no regrets because I realized nurses are like basically the superheroes. Basically, we experience so much, we deal with so much. It's again, to an amazing journey. It's very transformative to your character also. And I had no regrets about that. So, yeah.
When you say transformative to your character, what do you mean by that?
When I say that, because the person I was before I left to Curacao to embark that journey, I went to Curacao for 4 years to Ife, and I did my registered nursing there. And before I actually started with the study, every quarterly we had to do something called a POP, ontwikkeling plan, character development. And they were like, Danneil, you are a good nurse, you have good characteristics, but you're a little bit too contentious. You're a little bit too aggressive. And going to that school, and specifically that teacher, Juliska Lebir, she was the one who helped me really transform, because she was like, you can't have so much good qualities, and I had no patience. I was like, no, very, you know. And she took her time with me. Yeah. She really took her time with me. So, I'm always grateful for every journey. You just keep unlocking transformation. Yeah. And the first time I actually went on training, I did majority of my trainings in Samati Medical Center, because I wanted to be closer to home for the reasons of my daughter also. Okay. Yeah. And the language barrier in Curacao, and you know. So I basically did all my trainings there. So, you know, that also opened up my horizon. I witnessed a lot of different prospects of nursing. Yeah. And to be very honest, that is what really helped me, equip me to be the nurse that I am today, to render professional care.
You talk about your aggression, and where do you have an idea where that stem from?
Yes, from my childhood. I didn't have the best upbringing, but I think my parents did the best with what they knew. You know, so no bashing to my parents.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
I love my parents, but you know, if they don't know better, they're doing with what they knew. Yeah. So I more or less, that is where that came from. I just had, like, I could remember even going to school here. I went through all the schools on the island because I just was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, I went through all the schools on the island. I was, for a very long time, at the Seventh-day Adventist school. I went to Catholic for one day. Literally.
1 day.
I got in a fight and they get rid of me.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, where else? What else we have? I went to Governor de Graaf. Yes, I graduated from Governor de Graaf. And no, I didn't go to Methodist. No, that time they didn't.
No, I don't think they had it.
Those were the three schools, and that is where, you know, I basically, so.
And were you born in Statia?
I was originally born in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but I moved to Statia at a very young age. So most of my experience, my life, my childhood, everything is basically in Statia.
How old were you when you came here?
A baby.
Oh, a baby. Okay, you consider yourself?
Yes, basically, yes.
Okay. And your family is also from there?
Yes. My mom, my dad, my sister, my brother is from here. Yeah.
All from St. Vincent and Grenadines?
No, my brother is the only one from
No, I mean, except for him. But
yes, correct.
Oh, for some reason, I don't know why I was thinking Dominica. No. Yeah. Because I think I saw you post that you was in Dominica.
Yes, and again, also for my Dominica trip was a very personal and intentional trip. I took that for my birthday. And again, self-healing, grounding. And unleashing traumas, you know. Every occurrence that happened in your life, I always encourage to release it. Don't hold on to it. Don't keep it in. We're all humans, and we need to vent somehow, some way. Whether that is by journaling, whether that is by self-isolation in a healthy way. We do need to get that out of our system. And that was, although, you know, my regular birthday trips would be, hey, turned up. No, that was not it for my birthday.
I thought it was like you're connecting back to home.
No.
Yeah.
I was connected to nature. I was surrounded by waterfalls. I was surrounded by the lush greenery of Dominica. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's beautiful for sure. One of my favorites.
It was very intentional. I was like, you know, I'm going to Dominica.
I keep telling him we gotta go.
For sure.
It was a nice experience. I spent a week there more or less, but I literally went in the jungles. Like, I went in a cabin.
Nice.
And it was. I didn't want to have the typical resort experience. I really wanted to go into nature, really. And where I was staying, it was raining every day. You kind of get like, okay, there's nothing else to do.
And Statia, we have rain, so
it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so wet out here. It's always wet. You know? But all in all,
I guess that's why the land of many rivers.
And everywhere you go, you see a stream, you see a river, you see something, and you know, it's just also natural. And while I was there, also, I did some intentional fasting. I do fast, I do prayer, I do, you know, all of that, and that's a part of my journey also with the spirituality.
And a question, because you do that solo.
Yes.
You don't ever feel like uncomfortable or anything like that?
I guess it's just a part of my personality. I'm just that adventurous person that I just be like, okay, you just see me today. Hey,
what did they look like?
Yeah. Hey, let me jump out of the sky.
Yeah.
So I did skydiving, not in Dominica, but I did it in Atlanta for one of my birthday trips. I was like, you know what? We're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I did it. And that was it. And I like, okay, cross off my bucket list.
But one could say it looked like your birthdays is intentional.
Yes. That is
intentional to yourself.
Yes. That is one of them. I would say, I would really spend a lot of energy or time on. And if I don't do nothing else for the rest of the year for my birthday, I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to take this time out. And, you know, sometimes life is lifing and I just can't do nothing. And I'm like, you know what, next time, you know, I don't beat myself up about it. But I'm always grateful to have life. Every day I wake up, I say my prayers, I say what I need to say, and I set my intentions.
Yeah. I know we briefly touched on it, and then we went to Dominica. I wanted to go back to your family and your household, your childhood. How was it like growing up?
In Station?
Yeah.
Okay, the childhood in Station was basically a safe place because, again, the community, everyone knows everyone. The crime rate is very low, so, you know, it was a safe place for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't really necessarily experience any negativity. It's just like, you know, the gossiping and stuff like that. But I think that's what happens a lot in small communities.
That's true.
So, but for me, the perception that others have of me never inflicted me in no type of way because I know who I am at core and I know the substance that I have to me.
Yeah.
So the little gossip and stuff never bothered me. Even my mom would tell me, for example, Danielle, you must care what people say.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
How was it able to be instilled in you?
I think that's just a part of me. Because again, if I did follow Howie, I would have cared what everyone say and, you know, the perception of me. And that was just, I was like, I do not care. I'm living for myself. And whether it look how it look, okay, I could understand that, but I'm living for myself. And I say eventually I'll find my path, and I have found my path.
Yeah. Understandable.
That does make it difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you look up to your parents and so forth. But like you say, they know from maybe how they used to cope with things.
Exactly.
But...
And she will come over something, oh, you're very rebellious. I'm like, no, I'm not rebellious. I just have my own mind. I have my own mind. I have what I think life should be like to me. And, you know, even,
do you feel limited?
Sometimes, yes, I do. Because I believe that in order for me to really broaden my horizon the way I would want to, have the certain experiences, especially in dating, I do believe it is kind of limiting also the certain experiences that I would want to experience within professional lifestyle. I think it is a kind of limiting being in a smaller community. But at the same time, I do believe, again, I will have future prospects into that where I will probably migrate somewhere else. Who knows? And I am very
We need the nurses though.
Yeah, I understand. But after a while, you know, you need something challenging. You need something more challenging. Although the chronic care right now is a very new setting within the hospital that we are giving service to. But unless we are going to really expand into what the vision is of the C.G. Statius Healthcare Foundation, then of course after a while you want to expand more, you want to learn more, and you don't want to stay stuck. You just don't want to stay stuck because then you lose your talent, you lose your qualities, you lose a lot of different things.
That is true.
Even a part of yourself just become existing. And I just don't want to be existing.
I understand. You talked briefly about getting pregnant at a young age.
Yes, correct.
Can you like walk us through what the emotions were like when you first found out you were pregnant?
Well, first I was like, how am I going to tell my parents this? At first, my mom was, okay, what we going to do? She done there, accepting. Then the next minute, I was like, this woman bipolar, because like 1 minute she's like, yeah, it's okay, and then the next minute, no, and I was like, Mama, we talked about this last week though. I said, we'll be bringing this up every week, and she'd be like, no, but you know, and the raw emotions of it was like, how, like, I mean, we know how. Yeah. We know how. But what I mean to say was, like, what gonna do now? But because of the person that I am, I never allowed that to determine, to make me settle, like, okay, this is it. This is the end of it. No. And I also have still a very supportive child father, which is Ili Hewood. He's very supportive, and from when he's like, you're going to finish school, you know. You're going to finish school. I'm like, I know, I'm going to finish school. And that's why even going to Curacao for school, we made like, what the word I'm looking for? Sorry. Agreements. Yes, we made agreements. And it's like, okay, she came to Curacao for a while. She went to school in Curacao for a while. When I did my training in St. Martin, she came to St. Martin. So she was in school in St. Martin too, in a little crèche, you know. So we make that agreement, and then after a while, it will kind of be coming too much. She started to get confused. Like, okay, a here, then a there, then, you know. So then after, he was like, no, you know, you finish doing what you have to do. She's going to be here. And that's why I said I chose the option to do my internship in St. Martin. So I can be closer, where either I come over or she come over. And it worked. And I always say, if I wanted to, at the initial moment, let me say, to pursue something else, I wouldn't have been able to do it, because I just found, like, you know, you already spent 4 years and you want to be with your child. Like, you know, if you had leave it up to me, I would go with her. And and he was like, no, you need to focus, you need to this. It's not impossible, but I think you should focus on just, you know, coming back with a diploma. And that was very important for me, because also, you know, having a child, you know, I need to prove that to myself. I have to also make sure that I am able to provide for her. And that's also, I just didn't have the options of coming back, because my mother would have sent me straight back. Because she was like, nope, you're gone away. You need to obtain something. And so it wasn't an option. I was seeing, like, you know, students at the time, they were like, no, I homesick, I going back home. And I was like, are you going back home because you're homesick? Like, are you already do that? Like, the upbringing was, you know, I saw the difference, and I was like, I can't do that. Like, I called my mother enough time, cried, my somebody dead, how to handle this. And she was like, okay, and yes, it's a part of being a nurse, and this and this and this. And
you had to go through those moments too.
You know, and she was like, okay, so talk to you tomorrow. And
get over it.
Literally. And I'm glad that I had that tough love, kind of, because she was like, no, like, figure it out. And also within myself, I have my own motivation.
Exactly.
So it was like, you know, and I had the motivation from him. So it was a good support.
That's wonderful.
It was a good support.
Was the because a lot of times when we're younger, when we parents a certain way, you don't look at it as tough love. And maybe when you get older, you realize, oh, maybe it was. When do you come to the realization that actually the steps that your parents take, they just did with what they have, but also it actually benefited you in the long run?
I think after I had my daughter. Because I had to mature whether I like it or not. And after I had my daughter, I realized, okay, I understand what my father was saying. He probably didn't come over the right way. He was a little too about it, but I understand what he was saying. And they're like, you know, the same thing for my mom. I would be like, you know, okay, I get it. And now having my own child, like, we have a lot of conversation, a lot of personal conversation. You know, she's a teenager. And we have a lot of conversation, and I'm like, listen, Mom, I love you. It's just that maybe it might come over not the best way sometimes, but also I'm working on my delivery. I've come a very far way, as I said, you know, and we have a very close relationship, you know, with both of her parents. But, you know, she's a daddy's girl, so can't take it from her. So, but all in all, it's at the time, of course, you don't want to be a teenage mom, and I'm no way advocating teenage pregnancy. But now seeing myself in my early 30s with a teenager, I was like, okay, all right.
You're actually happy?
Like, weirdly, right? But I'm actually happy that I did that, and because I'm already seeing that I don't see myself having any more children.
I was going to ask a question, but you didn't answer it already.
I don't see myself having any more children. As I said, if I do have ideas to move in the future, to migrate somewhere else, I would prefer, you know, my daughter's leaving in the next 3 years for school. I'm here alone. You know, so for me, it's way easier to just pick up by myself and just, hey, I want to explore this option, or I want to explore this option, or this one suits me best, you know. So I think, I also, having a child at a younger age, for me personally, the reason why I never run back to go have another child, because my experience was not the best.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so I was like, I always say, you know what, if I do get married in the future and my husband do not have any children, I will consider. It's a big consider.
Boy, that's a big one.
That's a
and
big-
my husband do not have any children at this time.
You know, consider.
Yeah.
And then if he do have one,
If
and I hope he do, like, you know, also consider.
Yeah.
But as much as possible, that is not something that aligns with who I want to be in the future. Yeah, that's just how it is.
What advice would you give someone who maybe is a teenage mom right now, or maybe in the young 20s but haven't left stages yet?
Well, pertaining to the teenage mom, do not let the outside noise cloud your judgment, because some people, like, I think now the idea of not becoming nothing after having a child it has changed drastically. Because when that was around my time, it's like, yeah, you're gonna amount to nothing. You know, you're seeing big people you're pregnant already, and big people watching you shaking their head in shame and
Literally, wow.
yeah. And I was like, it don't happen already though. What I'm gonna do about
Exactly.
it?
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
but you know, just keep focused, keep your goals intact, keep determined. Do not leave that incident, you know, deter you from anything. If you want to become an astronaut, become an astronaut. That's it. Like, for me, that is all I would advocate for any teenage mom. If anyone in your 30s, do not be afraid to set boundaries. And we could talk a little about that
More.
later on.
Yeah.
You know, like, don't be afraid to set boundaries, and let your boundaries be stronger than your emotions. I think that is something we need to talk a lot more about, and the things that you want for yourself, and the things that you're willing to settle for.
Yeah.
And you know, just enjoy life. You know, just enjoy life. Be safe, but just enjoy life. Because one day you're here, next day you're not. And I always tell everyone, if I have to pass away, God forbid, anytime soon, I could lie down on my bed and be like, you know what? I did the things that I wanted to do. Like, you know, I do everything, but like, you know, I did some of the things that I wanted to do. And I think that is a powerful place to be. You know, like, you know, so live life with no regrets. Even if, you know, sometimes things happened, do not regret it. Learn from it. Find some way to learn from it. Lessons are blessings.
Exactly. I'm kind of curious, because you say that you used to go away, you go away for your birthday and different times, and usually when you go away in the first times, it was more like you go to party or something like that. What made you came to the realization that this specific time going to Dominica, I want to do something specifically different?
Okay, well, we will have to talk about the party zone first, I think. Before time, I used to be out every Friday, every Saturday, every pan knock I did. But I went on intentional self-healing, right? Where I went on to the Dr. Sebi lifestyle.
Oh, alkaline.
Yes, I went totally alkaline. It was not easy, especially being in Stacia. And, you know, I went totally alkaline. And when I went on that alkaline journey, during the process of healing my chronic illnesses that I had at that time, it also awakened a lot in me to really work on, you know, on the past traumas and stuff like that. And when I did that, it also triggered a spiritual awakening.
So wait, so
By
it was
changing-
diet?
Yes.
But at the same time, you're healing your traumas?
Yes.
And at the same time, it's a spiritual awakening?
Yes.
Okay.
I realized the correlation between the gut and the brain. And when I changed the way I was eating, so I cut out starches, I wasn't eating meat, I wasn't drinking alcohol, a whole 360. And I think the persons...
Did you jump into the 361 time, or you
Yes.
took stages?
No. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired of feeling the symptoms of what I was feeling.
Okay.
And I had a friend that was very close to me, and he was on the alkaline diet. And he got fed up of me hearing me talking about, and he like, listen, I know you're a nurse, so you are trained to be in the pharmaceutical
Yeah.
healing treatment, let me say treatment. And but maybe you should try herbal, and maybe you should, and I was like, at that time, no, you can't do that. How you gonna do that? But my perception of that has totally changed.
What is the difference there between the alkaline? Isn't alkaline, for people who are not so deep in it, isn't it about herbal too?
Okay, so with the alkaline lifestyle is basically about healing on an intracellular level. So every 3 months you produces new red blood cells, right? And what I did, I went on a fasting for 3 months on water, herbs, and sea moss. That was it.
Wow.
And
props to you.
Yeah. Wake up one day, just hey, this is what I'm gonna do, and that is what happened. And because of you're not eating any food, and you're not eating the fruits and the vegetables, the herb is actually helping to cleanse, but also replace. Okay. And at that moment, when I did it, I didn't have like the herbs that my friend recommended. So I didn't have the burdock root, I didn't have the sarsaparilla, I had sea moss. And I said, listen, this is what we're gonna start on. Okay, because this is what we're gonna start on. I also was using clove and those type of things. But I really just wanted to start the process, and the experience of it was not nice. You're literally going through withdrawal experiences. Like I had symptoms of like headaches, I had toothaches, I had shivering, I in the bed with fever. You're dispelling mucus from cavities. So your nose, your oral cavities, your cavities. Okay? Those who get it. And it's just inflammation. You're just getting rid of inflammation. So when you go through that process, it's kind of putting you in a zone to kind of like confront yourself, to deal with yourself. Because majority of the time when we eating what we eating, because it's from comfort, and you couldn't eat it. So now that is when I realized how strong-minded I am. Because people will sit down in front of me eating the chicken, I fasting, my mouth watering. And the fact that even smelling the chicken made me nauseous.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the alkaline, going back to that also, is about having a perfect balance within the body. So what happens is when you are eating a lot of meat, you are in a very high inflammatory state. So you have a lot of inflammation in the body. Inflammation, according to the Dr. Sebi lifestyle, inflammation breeds diseases. So the less inflammation you have in your body, the less diseases you will experience. The chronic illnesses that I had at the time in my late 20s, I had hypothyroidism, I had hypertension, so high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. My lifestyle was not the best. I used to eat what I want. I used to do what I want. I wasn't so much into the exercise. That's why sometimes you see me exercising. Because
and you would think you was a dancer, you actually doing exercises through there.
Well, maybe through that, but that was about it.
What was your surrounding like then?
Everyone around me did not understand what was going on. It's very difficult to explain someone who never had a spiritual awakening what a spiritual awakening is. Because majority of the time you're categorized as crazy. You see things, you feel things, you hear things, and no one else around you is feeling.
So through the detox, you experience all of that.
And you're like, yo, you don't understand, yo, we in a matrix. And you're like, what are you talking about? And then I'd reached to a point like I self-isolated. So
walk me through that.
I self-isolated to the point that I couldn't go in crowds. I couldn't be around people that didn't understand. And again, the community we're in, much people didn't understand that. But I had my friends that did not judge me. And I think that really helped me through it. It was like, we know what you're going through. We're here with you. We love you. But we're going to give you the space to do what you're doing. And at that time too, as I said, it just happened so quickly. And I would, for example, I had to reintroduce myself into public spaces.
Yeah.
Because it was just too much. I was feeling, hearing, seeing. Everyone thought it was like I was awakened. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And even when I started with this chronic care clinic, I was still in that heightened intuition where I picked up on everything. My discernment was very, very strong.
Yeah.
And I would have like 10 people a day, or maybe not 10, like 8 people a day.
Yeah.
And you're feeling this one emotion, you're feeling this one, and you're like, I was like, no. It was too much.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you can't explain it. You can't explain the spiritual gifts that you obtain during the journey. You just can't explain these things.
Exactly.
And the fact that I felt the urge that I needed to reintroduce myself, it kind of got me scared. But sitting down thinking about it now, I think that was the route for me.
How long after did you reintroduce yourself?
If
you can remember.
2 years. A year after, no, 2 years. I went on a Dr. Sebi lifestyle for basically 2 years. And as I said, I cut off everything, even intimacy, alcohol, party, everything. I just cut it clean. I was like, that was it. I like, no, we ain't doing this. Like, you know, you just didn't want to be subjected to nothing.
Yeah.
You just shut yourself out. And it was, again, people didn't understand.
Yeah.
So when I realized now, like, it started to get lonely. I'm not going to it started to get lonely. Nobody else you could have really relate to. Only my one friend in St. Martin I could have talked to, because he was on it and he would been on it. He like, yeah, you're going to feel this. You're going to see this. I'm like, yeah, that don't happen.
How long was he on that?
He was on it quite some time, maybe like 3 years, 4 years, so before me.
Yeah.
So he really mentored me into it, you know. And also, before I really went onto it, I had someone around me who also joined it with me, so I don't feel so alone with it. And you know, they wasn't doing it to the level I was doing it, but they also joined me. Yeah.
The effort.
So I was like, you know what? Thank you. You know. But, it was a lot. It was a lot. It started to get lonely, as I said, and it was like, okay. So then I slowly start to go back out, and I was like, okay, no, I go back inside. It was too much. I was like, okay, no, I need to go back inside. I go back inside, and then, you know, I ground myself, and then it's like, okay, I try it again another time, and I try again, and then until now, but it does not attract me like that. Like, even here, like, I would basically be inside for like half of the year.
Yeah.
I hardly go out as
And when you're out, you're out.
When I'm outside, I'm outside. You know? When I'm outside, I'm outside. But majority of the time, I don't have the urge. And most of the time, I realize I prefer to just go away and enjoy myself. I would do the carnivals, I would do the different things. But now also too that I am getting more in tune into the Bible, and I really want to walk the walk. I don't just want to read the Bible, I also want to live by it. And I know it's not going to be a 1, 2, 3 step, and I'm very graceful with myself, and I'm giving myself grace. I know it's going to take brick for brick, because although I'm reading the Bible and I'm building a spiritual relationship with God, I know there's a lot of worldly things that I'm still attracted to. And I know as I continue on this journey, I will just be filled with the Holy Spirit to be convicted towards certain things. So I'm not here sitting down saying, oh, I'm a saint and I'm reading the Bible and I have it all figured out. No.
I know you're going to have that coming towards you.
I know where I am in my life, and I really just know what I feel when I connect with the Most High.
That is a tough. Well, it could be a difficult one. Don't you? When you was going through that process of, you know, fasting and detox, you didn't feel like you was too woke? Because you say you were feeling a lot of things.
I was. It was a journey. It was a journey. And also too, at that time, like, okay, with where my spirituality has grown, it is because I was more on a earth-based spirituality then. So I was more connecting with the moon and meditating and manifesting and using crystals to meditate. And, you know, the word crystals kind of scares people off because they have a very bad perception of it. But I was using it to meditate. And No, what is very funny, because reading it in the book of Matthew, if I'm not mistaken, they talk. Exodus. In the book of Exodus, yes, they talk about they use the breastplate for the tribe of Israel, and they used crystals to put on it. So I was like, okay, well,
interesting.
It's so bad. And two of the stones that they had on the breastplate, I was meditating with. So I was like, okay. But also reading the Bible, I have realized, like, for example, in the book of Leviticus, Deuteronomy, they talk a lot about astrology.
Yeah.
So like, oh, she's a Virgo, or she's a Sagittarius,
Okay.
those type of things. We are not supposed to really indulge in those things.
Yeah.
And I studied that very heavy.
Yeah.
And I could just, by interacting with somebody, I could pick up, okay, yeah, this person is more a water sign, or this person. So now I have to unlearn these things, because it's like, okay, it's there, but we're not supposed to really indulge in it. It's forbidding knowledge. Okay.
Yeah.
So as I said,
what made you choose that? Go ahead.
I didn't choose where I wanted to be. Like, I just woke up. I was attracted to the moon all of a sudden. I was attracted to tracking the moon, the astrology aspect of it, this, and I was like, all right, well, but it really helped grounded me. It really helped me to where I am today. And it was just one day, I just was no longer attracted to it. It just disconnected from me. I used to have crystals. I used to have, protection thing, support. After a while, it just becomes like totally, I was not attracted to it anymore. So then I was like, you know what? Okay, I guess that's the end of that cycle. So then more and more, I always knew about God. But at an early age, I was more forced to go to church. So when I was forced to go to church, being the person I was kind of rebellious, I was like, I used to go to church because my mother told me to go to church. But not that I was receptive to the word. So although I know there is God and you must pray to God and stuff like that, I didn't have that. So then, I was going through something in my life at that time, and I had a friend. He was like, why you don't pray? Like, go inward, pray. And I was like, okay. It felt weird. Because I was like,
how do you pray? How do you start?
Yeah, like where to start? Like I was fumbling, like, and I was like, they're like, no, just pray and just, And after a while, it became more like natural. But then, again, I always have a journey. I met a connection along the way, and they were very versed into the Bible. They were quoting scriptures. They was, very much into prayer. And it was good to see that. And I think it helped me embrace more getting to know the word and for myself. And I always would say, you shouldn't rely on other sources to get to know the Most High. Reading for yourself is impeccable, because like right now, sometimes I read, I'd be cracking up because they got some stories there in the Bible. Like, really, this is what happening, but it really helped to sharpen your wisdom, your knowledge, the fruits of your spirit. It really helps you to get connected. And again, you might watch me from the outside and be like, oh, she does a party girl. Oh, yeah, I have a lot of different sides to me.
A lot of layers.
Yes, a lot of layers. Even down to my music choices now have changed. I do like I love my soca. I love my soca, But I've realized a difference within me transforming from dancehall to soca. When I was listening to dancehall, I was, again, more aggressive, more argumentative, more combative. All it takes.
But that's dancehall itself.
And that was me. Because I was like, it just made me more aggressive. And then when I go over to soca, everybody like wave your hand in the air and jump again. And I was like, how you could be aggressive with that?
Exactly.
How you could be aggressive with that? And that really helped me transform again. I'm more into R&B and, I love music. I just love music. But especially now, what I am more attracted to, especially in my worship time, they have this remix with a Goyard compa gospel.
Gospel. That's nice.
Oh, it's beautiful. Like, I get up.
Ain't like I don't want to say the boring gospel. But
no. And this is the thing. Yeah, there is those,
I know.
Yeah.
the classic gospel music.
Yeah.
But for me to be able to continue my worship the way I want
You got to be
need
kind of
something to
entertained.
connect in, yes. And maybe some viewers listening, they'll be like, okay, yeah, but you're supposed to listen to secular music, because secular music is music that does not really initially draw you closer to God.
Yeah.
Right? And but it is music that is about God, is just with different instruments, and
maybe throughout your journey you might end up there.
that's what I said. Like, for me, I'm in transformation. That's what I'm telling everyone. I'm in transformation. Maybe now I like the little thing because I love to dance. So therefore, it's like, even hearing the little thing, it just, the instrumentals in the background is just beautiful. And I work on that. I deal with that, and I was like, okay. Right.
But life is about transformation.
Yes, it is. It is. So where you was 10 years ago, if you're in the same place you was 10 years ago, we got some talking to do.
Yeah.
You're supposed to realize within yourself, hey, I don't like this version of me that can't resolve conflicts.
Yeah.
I don't like this version of me that shut down when someone give me critic. Some part of you supposed to be triggered to want to do better. And for me personally, because some of my friends would say I'm addictive to self-growth. I'm always looking for something to be like, okay, no, I need to work on that. My delivery was kind of poor.
Yeah.
And I think that is about, being honest with yourself and reflecting. Because if you don't reflect, if you don't be honest with yourself, you're gonna have like a blind spot.
Yeah.
And when people are trying to tell you these things, you get offended, you feel challenged, you feel like, oh, but why they picking on me? No, I just want the best for you, boo. But
like you said, the delivery.
Yeah, the delivery. But my circle is very small for a reason. Like, I am a very social person, but at the same time, I am very small scale. I have a handful of people like
Yeah.
But
I don't see anything about it to criticize. If you have a small people.
Look, I was, for me, as you mature, you know exactly the alignments you want to have in your life.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want a friend will possess maybe these kind of qualities that don't align with the values and morals I have for myself. Because I am a very loyal friend.
Yeah.
I will go to the end.
Yeah.
And if that's not being reciprocal, it's kind of like, okay, if I realize that you're just there to drain my energy, I don't want you around me. If those type of things. So for me personally, my peace means a lot.
Yeah.
Even in intimate connections, in relationships, for example, if at anywhere it's not aligning with the values and morals that I have for myself, I cut it off very quickly, because I have had experiences in the past where I have learned what is manipulation, what is gaslighting, what is being controlling, and experiencing those things for myself firsthand. I know, okay, this is not things that I want for myself. This is not things that are going to actually help cultivate the person that I want to be and then continue to grow.
Yeah.
So, I have strong boundaries. Sometimes people just ask me, will you ever have a relationship? Will you settle? And I was like, yes, I will, but it needs to align with what I want. And that is just where it's at. So majority of the times, you start to date someone, you start to you're like, okay, and then after it's not working out, it's like, okay, bye. And they're like, yeah, but you're not trying. No, I see what I see.
Yeah.
Bye. And I don't want to reach to a point where I'm exhausting my energy, Like, if we talk about a situation once or twice or 3, 4, that's enough for me. Like, okay, you're showing me clear behavior that, okay, you don't want to change. This is who you are. And I don't want to change who you are.
Yeah.
If you do not want to do the change within yourself, I'm not going to force you. If you're showing me inconsistent behavior, I cannot deal with that. If you're, certain things, like, I just know, like, okay, I'm not going to stand for that. That is not what I want. And the things that I probably my unhealed self would have tolerated, I'm not tolerating now. And there's things that I would have probably done in relationships in the past that I absolutely won't do now. So, like, again, you have to know where you're at. I don't think it's a dating problem in Stacia, per se. Why? Because when you, for example, you go on the internet, you see everyone ranting about the dating pool quality.
Yeah.
So I don't think per se, like, okay, oh, it's only station. No, we identify it easier because of the small community.
Yeah.
You know, everyone knows everyone, you know, so you identify it easier. But meanwhile, if you have to go out there and date, the pool looks bigger and you think, hey, you know, there's more opportunity.
Yeah.
Probably they are, but that don't mean that in between there's no quality.
Yeah.
You know, so therefore, for me, when it comes to dating on the island, what I believe from what I have gathered from my experiences, a lot of people are stuck. They are stuck in like self-identity. They are stuck in like self-growth. They don't know how to make the step forward. And especially as men, men are trained not to have emotions. Men are trained not to, you know, speak on certain things. And when a man do speak on it, you're like, oh no, oh boy, lighten up yourself. And like, you know, if you're not on that level to really nurture that man emotions, you could break him very easily. And he's not going to open up to no one else again because they're very easy to shut down. So I think what happened,
No, you're going good.
Yeah, I think what happened with is a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And they don't really know how to identify it. They think it is normal because they see their uncle do that, so they think it's normal. So they didn't really have much examples. And I think also too, we women tolerate a lot not to really show them different, in the sense of if you are strong on your boundaries, you wouldn't accept, for example, let me say a partner having like 4 persons, you know, and if you show a man that is okay, he just is going to continue. He see no reason for change, you know, so then therefore it's just a cycle. It just continues, but in the same time, you are draining yourself, trying to make this connection work.
Yeah.
You're also losing yourself. You're losing your self-worth. You're losing your self-love.
Yeah.
You're really compromising on your boundaries just to say you have a relationship.
Yeah.
And that is where I am at. Like, I am not going to just settle. I'm not going to settle with someone who's probably emotionally, physically abusing me just to say I'm in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I know how it could come over. It could come over like, you know, like, okay, but, you know, you need to relax. And yeah, I will.
Do you believe a person have to be ready-made for you?
Where I'm at right now? Possibly. Why I say that is because, again, I have done so much work. I have done a lot of work on myself to where I'm at. I do not mind if I meet someone that is not really there yet, if they're willing to work on it.
Yeah.
If they're willing to put in their own investment, that I just coexist and I am not really putting in too much there.
I saw a quote, I remember lately, you posted something about you're not Bob the Builder.
I'm not Bob the Builder. I'm not building no man for future. But because the reason why also too with that, I realized not everyone have the ability to appreciate being with someone that was with you in your down moments. You know, you have to have a real level of maturity for that, because majority of the times what you see is that you would be with a person, for example, they down, as soon as they get up, they flee and they find the person that they really want now on that level.
Oh,
So, you know, it is a lot of time is a risk for us as women to really build with a man.
So you mean to say you're preparing a man for the next woman?
Technically, that's, you know, there is some scenarios where the man really value you for being down, you know, he really value like, yo, this girl with me from day one, I love she, you know, this is it, you know.
Yeah.
I have a little hiccups, you know, of course, our relationship have hiccups.
Yeah.
But seldomly you see that. Seldomly. It's like, okay, after a while, okay, you was good for the down moment, now up here, I want a Becky. It's what Becky saying over there. Becky. You know, so those are the things.
When I say about ready-made, I mean like a healed person already. Like you're not willing to go through that process, because some people say don't come in a relationship if you're not healed. Okay. Are you willing to go through that?
No. After I went through my healing journey, I connected with a person that was not yet on that healing journey. And that I had to build back basic some stuff, brick to brick to brick. I don't want to use that. I connected with someone who was not yet on that frequency.
Yeah.
They was more in a low vibrational frequency, and it was very difficult to kind of engage and connect. And as I said, that is where I experienced the manipulation and and for me, I have realized people that are not yet in that healing part of them, they try their best as much as possible to dim the light that you have.
Wow.
And I am not, as I said, I have come a very far way, and I'm not willing to compromise on that. I'm not willing to compromise on my self-worth for that, So as I said, don't get me wrong, if I meet someone who is a high vibrational person, we can connect and, and they're willing to do intentional inner work, shadow work, whatever work they're trying to do to get to know themselves better, to release trauma, I am willing to hold their hand and coexist. But I do realize my personality is a lot to deal with. I'm very honest, my personality is a lot to deal with. No, my personality is a lot to deal with. Because
because you went, why I asked, why is that? Because I know you say you went to the detox, you do
no, my
some journaling. And
my personality is my personality, right? That it during that period it kind of went, but why I say that is because I am not afraid to express myself. And again, if you meet someone who is not yet ready to deal with that, they're like, oh yeah, you're challenging me. Oh no, yeah. No, I'm not. I really just here expressing something that I didn't like. And you taking it the wrong way because, again, no one ever call you out on the things that you're doing that is affecting them. And then after, I'm like the bad guy over there, like, oh my God. And it comes to a point like they want you just to shut up, not have an opinion, and that is not me. Look how talkative I be. How that can walk. And I'm very honest with myself. All my experiences with dating, relationship, I regret none.
Nice.
Even the ones that had me at my lowest, I regret none because that now made me the person that I am with my boundaries, with my values, with the things that I want for myself. And also too, don't forget, I have a daughter. So by the end of the day, any relationship I get, eventually she's going to have to be around this person. Eventually, so I have a lot of things to really watch. I have, to protect her also. So for me, it's not only about me. I can't just think about me. And if I'm already, entertaining a connection that I realize there's controlling or there's physical abuse or something like that, what example am I setting for her? So those are things that I watch on a more broader scale. And as I said, I am just not on the settling for less basis.
Perfect. You speak about gaslighting several times.
Yes.
If somebody watching this and they don't know, can you give an example of what it is?
Gaslighting, an example of gaslighting is when a person makes you doubt your reality, right? They could switch your words very well, like I didn't say that, for example. They'll be like, oh, so that's what you meant. So that's really what, so that's how you feel about me. And I was listening.
Oh, in that way. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, it's a lot of tactics, it's a lot of mind games. And then you sitting on your, but I didn't say that. Did I say that? Like, you actually start to question yourself. And for example, you would put your phone there and they would put your phone there and you're like, yeah, but your phone was there. It wasn't there. And you're like looking, wondering. No, it was not. But it has to come over as manipulation because they're trying to see how much they can break you.
Make you question yourself.
Yeah, they make you really doubt your reality. And for me personally, had I not experienced that connection, I would have never known that because my other connections, they was just chilling. They was, they were like, hey, And I was like, that was really awakening for me too in relationships. And I was like, this is what other women is be going through. Like, you would hear it, you know, and for me to experience it myself, I was like, whoa, how we reach here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you're so self-aware, how we reach here. But again, about masking. I thought that an individual could only mask for 3 months. This particular individual masked for 8 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when the mask did drop, I was like, who are you?
Yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
literally was like trying to get them to put back on the mask.
Yeah.
Like, this is not what I was accustomed to. Like, put it back
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it wasn't going back on. And it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. And then I was like, no. That was the first connection I think I tried to make it work because I was invested.
Yeah, yeah.
I was invested, being
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
And, you know, I did have love for the person.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right, okay, maybe we could fix this, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look me looking for all kind of solutions.
Yeah.
We're gonna try couples therapy,
Yeah.
and then no, couple therapy can't fix that person because that person is in a low vibration. They're just, you know, going through their own thing, and not saying that they could never get healed, but you know, they have their own thing that they're going through.
Yeah.
And I was distraught.
It's good that you didn't put yourself and drown in that too.
No, I almost did, but again, my determination, and my instincts.
Yeah.
I have after the whole spiritual, my intuition, my discernment. It was really strong. It told me what it needed to tell me.
Yeah.
To tell me.
Yeah.
But I was just like, no man, how you see that?
Yeah.
Like literally, like
Yeah.
I was in my Delulu phase. That
Yeah.
what they say to Delulu for the Sululu. That what they say.
Yeah.
And it's just So
Yeah.
I was like, you know, it really affected me. And again, brick by brick, I had to fix back myself. And then I was like, no.
Speaking. The best way to word is speaking to you. It seems like you like you say, you're big on self growth. You take a lot of work to get into the woman that you are right now.
Correct.
A man watching this and looking for the right way to approach.
He'll run away.
What makes you say that?
The reason I say so is, again, you know what? It depends where he is on his own journey. If he is also looking for someone that, you know, knows exactly what they want, maybe, you know, we have a conversation. I do interviews, you know.
You really have to sign up.
You know, during the interviews, I would realize, okay, potential, no potential. And one thing I must say, we do have a lot of men with potential. Again, potential.
Yeah.
But then they stuck right there. They just stuck at the potential barrier. Like, you know, like, hey, you know, you would make a very good man if you just, you know, are you open to hearing this? And they're like, nah, I really feel like doing that. I don't want to do that. I go, you know, like, okay. All
Again,
right,
is that part? I ain't cutting you off, but part of you saying men not open up emotionally.
Yeah, it is gonna. I do believe there's gonna have a evolution of self growth one day. I don't know when, but I think also with the internet playing a role, more people are in tune with like TikTok and Instagram, and you know, you're always gonna see a man talking about his own self healing journey, and you're seeing that a lot now. Like, you know, they're really getting to that level. So, the person who is for me is somewhere there. I don't think they're here at this moment. I'm being very honest, but they're somewhere. And all I'm gonna do for this current moment, I'm just gonna continue to work on myself to get closer to the Most High, build my relationship with Him, and eventually He will lead who needs to come to me, or the vice versa. That is what I believe in. I'm not forcing any connections right now. I'm not forcing to be, you know. As I said, I'm just existing here at this current moment, and I'm trying my best not to set deadlines, because that was a thing for me to like, at 30 I have to be married, I have to be this, and when you reach 30 and it still ain't happening, you're like, oh my God, and then you kind of feel like, okay, let me just be with someone, that I went through that episode. I was like, okay, so let me see, okay, no, because again, it's not serving you.
And the timing.
And you you just can't rush things. It either there or it's not there. It's either your time or it's not your time. And you know, not everyone's story is the same. You know, so I just chilling.
You was just an onion. So to me, it's like, okay, I discovered more and more. When it comes to journaling,
oh yes,
was that a part of your detox, or you did that before?
No, that was a part of my detox. As I tell you, everything just happened. It just happened. Like after the diet was changed, you're like, okay, you're sitting with yourself and you just start to journal. And I remember journaling for 3 hours and just unpacking. And while I unpacking, I balling on the place, you know, snot bubbles and things. You know? I was because apparently I was suppressing a lot, and I didn't realize it. So that is why now I realize within myself, I cannot be in a relationship where someone do not want me to express myself.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not able to express myself, it's like I'm just gonna be suppressing until one day I just flip out. And the thing is, I have learned also how to really deal with conflicts or how to approach, you know. I know, like for me personally, if I have a heavy topic to talk about in a relationship, I'm not doing it indoors. I don't want that energy stagnant within, you know. And I prefer, you know, we go to the beach, we go, you know, somewhere, we talk, you know, we leave it there. We come back home, it's a totally different environment. You know, we just, you know, exist. Yeah. But so it's not that my delivery now is as contentious as it was, but people are just not there yet. And again, I am not going to dim my light for anyone. I'm looking into the cameras and say that.
What if, like, for example, you just said that you want us to have a certain conversation with a person you're in a relationship with, you prefer to go somewhere else. Yeah. What if that person prefers to have the conversation at home?
I would meet them there. Like, we will have the conversation at home, but can we then go outside? Like, can we then just go on the porch instead of arguing in the bedroom? Yeah. It really, energy is a real thing. And you start arguing in the bedroom and it just become a place to argue and you just argue and that place feels so heavy. I see what you mean. Yeah. It feels really heavy and then like you're like, why I feel like this, you know? And there's a place for everything, you know? I mean, if it at this point, you know, you don't want to leave, okay, baby, no problem. Like the thing is, as masculine as I may be, because you
consider yourself masculine?
Yes, I'm very hyper independent, hyper vigilant. That comes from a place of, you know, trauma also. And I could be very submissive to the right person.
But how did it even get to that point to get you to the path that you're gonna want to be submissive? Because you say you're kind of more on the masculine side. The man going to immediately sense it immediately when they speak to you that you're more on the masculine side of things.
But if he comes correctly and I can trust in his leadership, it automatically comes down. Like the person that masked for the 8 months, I was in the Lulu land. I was like, okay, baby.
Submissive.
I was, like, you were leading me the right way. Everything was going. And again, for me, the 3 months was the cutoff point for faking. So when I started, I was like, okay, well, this is it. And I love it here. And I was glowing and I was happy and I was smiling. And it felt good to not take on all the burden. We as women are not meant for all the burden that we take on. And I was like, well, okay, well, he gonna handle that. You know, it was a nice feeling. So, you know, so I proved to myself that I can calm down. That I really needed to know that, because I was like, people would watch me like, oh, she always be in control. She very this. No, I'm not. I can just.
Once you're the right person.
Yes, I could chill. I could really chill. But and what I said, I think earlier, that my personality, I have a very vibrant personality. I'm very upbeat. And I tend
you give that off.
I tend to attract the opposite. So I attract people who are not so upbeat, people who are homebodies. And it's like, I don't need to go out to a club. I just don't mind having a picnic under a tree, and we talking. I just need to be outside. You know, it don't need to be in a club. It don't need to be in a restaurant. I just
somewhere outdoors.
Go to the beach, no problem. But then I just said, no, I don't want to go nowhere. I want to stay yeah. And then what happens is, because I need outdoor air, I end up doing things by myself. I'm like, okay, well, you don't want to go, but I need to go.
Yeah.
And then I would meet people who don't want to travel, and but I love to travel. So you need to compromise.
Yeah.
You need to compromise. So I said, okay, are you willing to travel twice a year? Are you able to travel twice a year? Yeah, I just don't want to go nowhere. Then I know already we have a lifestyle issue.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, well, you're a nice person, but
Okay, you would say relationships is about compromising.
yes,
too.
it's about compromise. And
And balancing.
Yes, balancing. But then after I realized, besides, okay, you're not wanting to travel, I realized other characteristics that do not align with one. So I'm like, you know what, you're a nice person, but you're not my person.
Yeah.
You're maybe somebody else's person, but not for me.
Yeah.
And I'm very honest with myself. And, you know, they would be like, yeah, you need to relax. I'm like, yeah, but that's not me. So now you're trying to shift me now.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be resentful towards you. Because again, that's not what I want to do.
Because that's the same thing when you said earlier, you know, your intention is not to change a person.
No, it's not to change a person. It's really,
Yeah.
if you cannot accept me the way how I am, my vibrant, bubbly self,
Yeah.
and you feel like, no, I want you smiling no more, and I don't want you being bubbly no more. I mean, that's who I am, though.
Exactly.
So, like, how that's gonna work,
Yeah.
you know? And I realized too, a lot of people are stemming from a place of insecurity.
I was just going to ask.
Yes. It's very insecure. It's more insecurities or like, yeah, okay. And then if you are a quiet person and then you have this bubbly person next to you, hi, how are you? And know everybody and then you there like, what's going on? Like, you know, and I have even reached into some in connections where they were actually jealous of that. That they did not have that voice that I have. And I was like, but you can train your voice. You just need to be more vocal.
Yeah.
And, you know, don't suppress so much and don't stonewall, for example. And you'd be like, you know, again, energy.
So like, your energy passing on to you and then that could affect your...
Exactly. And that happened also too.
Yeah.
Because, again, you entertain some connections that are not for you and you end up being confused. You end up getting depressed.
Yeah.
You end up...
Exactly.
You was like, well, I wasn't feeling like this. And as soon you cut that connection off, you feeling like a butterfly again outside. You know, and that's why I said I am very strong of making my boundaries stronger than my emotions. I could love you to death. And if it not working out and you're not willing to compromise or meet me halfway, I
think that's where many people stuck.
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
That part.
Correct.
Because I love...
Yes. They hold on until they lose themselves.
Yeah.
And then when they lose themselves completely, then they probably want a divorce after 20 years. But then you lose 20 years. Think of it like that. Huh? And sometimes you're in a connection with someone and then maybe you cut it off.
Yeah.
And I think where a lot of women are stuck to is because when they cut off the connection initially and the person come back around, you know, giving them the little breadcrumbs like, hey, how you? I miss you. They tend, although they know it's not serving them, they go back.
Yeah.
And then they in the cycle again. And then after they cut it off again and then like, yeah, but you the one for me.
Yeah.
I love you. And those things don't work on me. Like, I have grown past that. So like if you're in a connection and you know something happened and you're like, okay, like, you know what, this is not for me right now, and you're coming back around, you need to come intentional. You need to come remorseful. You need to come with change behavior. And again, those things are could be intimidating to the wrong person because that, hey baby, I miss you, not gonna work for me. I'm not even if you send me that in a message, me self-responding. No, seriously.
Which is understandable.
Yeah, I'm not responding. And
Understandable.
it depends how the connection broke off.
Yeah.
If it broke off, amicably,
You're really strong, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, if it broke off amicably, okay, fine. You know, we could. But if it broke off on, you know, things that we agreed on a one-on-one basis, and then you know, whatever, then I'm like, no. The next thing about me, I am not a person who is going to shut down and don't tell you what's the problem. Like, okay, based on what happened, this, I do not want to entertain this connection anymore. So there's no ghosting here, there's none of that.
Yeah.
And I realized that is a modern thing, or ghost somebody, and you know, even
Block.
The ghost. And if I block you, it's because you know you mess with my peace.
Yeah.
I don't block people.
Yeah.
I don't block people. So if I block you, it is very intentional, and I will tell you, I don't want to speak with you anymore. And then if you mean that, hey, you're a big bad wolf, and you still want to continue, you know, I'm like, I won't just ignore you.
Yeah.
And that is me standing on my boundaries.
Yeah.
And again, it could come over as a meanie, it could come over as a bully, and but I have been through a few things that has made me this strong on my boundaries. And yeah, that's where I'm at with the dating.
Like I always say, you never just judge people because a lot of things that they went through, maybe childhood and all of that, does make them who they are right now.
Exactly.
So
And sometimes we are putting up a facade to just survive.
Yeah.
You know, so
to be accepted.
Yeah. The person probably I was 10 years ago, it was probably me just, you know, and the person that I am today is the self-evolving part of me.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't say I healed, but I'm very self-aware. And it took a lot to be here.
Do you ever heal?
No. There's always something. You, as I said, you might entertain the wrong connection, and then you got to go back brick for brick for brick. And healing is not linear. Everybody think you heal once in your life and you're done. It's an up and down. It's a roller coaster. Because again, when I enter a relationship now, I have to now deal with. I could deal with myself.
Yeah.
But there's parts of me that will be triggered in a relationship also that I then need to heal and deal with. So healing by yourself is all dandy, it's all fine because you have nobody to hold you accountable, you have nobody to put that mirror up in your face. But now when I get in a relationship, it's like, okay, Danielle, you're not gonna do this. Like you really need to talk to yourself.
And how to adapt.
Yeah. And I gotta deal with somebody in my space and I'm like, no. You know, so
what advice would you give young females, you know, like how they're just getting into the dating and all of that?
I want to get more specific.
Oh, wow.
Because you have a daughter.
Yes.
How do you instill these things in your daughter?
Me and my daughter have very open conversations. As I said, she's a teenager, and of course, she's a beautiful young lady.
Yeah.
So I try to tell her, listen, as much as possible, men, they're gonna come with the sweetest of words, and I want you to be able, from now, as a teenager, to realize that they're just words. Until someone comes to you that their actions is matching your words, it's just words. Do not put expectations, because that's another thing that keeps us stuck. Expectations of this relationship, right? I also would tell her that, you know, as much as possible, get to know yourself. Get to know yourself and get to know the things that you like apart from a relationship or apart from another person. Do not become codependent on anyone to regulate your emotions. All of these conversations, we have very in-depth conversations. And I tell her as much as possible the same things. Do not allow anyone to make you do things that you do not want to do. That's one. And do not allow anyone to take advantage of you. You know? And if you at any time feel that something is not right, because it's not right, listen to your intuition. Try to make your intuition strong as possible. Again, your discernment. Our spirit talks to us all the time. We just, again, we're stubborn, so we do what we want to do. But all in all, those are things that I would tell her. And as she get older, I tell her, hey, mommy always here. Don't ever feel that there's any topic that is off limits. You can always come to me, no matter what it is.
That's
and
wonderful.
I
said that's wonderful.
And she knows
you all
that.
have an open
Sometimes
relationship.
she'll just come and plop herself on my bed. But what you think? Then she come ask me, oh, but when I go start dating? I'm like, child, back up, you know. But you know, we have very open conversation. And again, the internet. You're seeing all kind of different things. So if she see a video, she can be like, well, what do you mean by this? And
how old is your daughter now?
My daughter is 15. She's making 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, she's making 16.
They make me remember that. Sweet 16.
Yeah. So, we have very open conversations. There's no limit.
Does it, I ain't trying to put anything like that out in the world, but does it give you some sort of fear within yourself, knowing what happened to you when you was younger?
Yes, and I speak very openly. As you saw just now when I said 16, I did this.
Yeah.
Because my story, and I always tell her as much as possible, I don't want her to repeat the same cycle. Yeah. Like, I want her to have the opportunities to excel. You know, you don't have to, because I have a child, now I have to limit my dreams. No, you should be. If you want to become a neurosurgeon, be a neurosurgeon. Yeah. Be whatever you want to be. Take 20 years if you want to take 20 years. You know, and all in all, I think she has her head on her shoulders. She's very, as I said, she have a good relationship with both of us. Of course, she's a teenager. She gonna tell us everything. Yeah. Right there, Shanique. She gonna tell us everything. But at the same time, what she do share and who she is at core to and her personality, we kind of have more or less the same personality. So you see yourself in her a lot. Yes, and yes. Okay. Besides the looks,
they look just
and that is something because like she was raised by her father most of the time, but then still
exactly. So even like when I come back, it just was like, you know, even her temperament when she was younger, I could remember myself. Yeah. She was very. So, you know, because I didn't want her to grow with that, you know, it literally was a lot of discipline to get that out of her. Yeah. And I was like, okay, all right. So, you know, she's a work in progress too, but she has her head on her shoulder.
Yeah. You also mentioned that you're a nurse practitioner. What is the difference between a nurse and a nurse practitioner?
Okay, so it actually lies in the level, right, and also the responsibility. Like, as a registered nurse, you would be more administrating like bedside care, you know, bathing patients, you know, emergency care, depending on where you're at in the nursing field. So you could be an emergency nurse, you could be, you know, any type of nurse basically. With a nurse practitioner is more of a guiding role of chronic illness. You could be a nurse practitioner in anything. Okay. But I'm more specialized in the chronic illnesses sector, and it's more of a guiding role. It's more about talking about lifestyle, it's more talking about medication, is more, you know, more of a guiding role to more understand your illness, more or less.
Well, give example of chronic illnesses.
Okay, so chronic illnesses is considered like diabetes, like high blood sugar, cardiovascular diseases. Cardiovascular diseases is basically just a group of disorders that affect the heart and the blood vessels. So under that we have heart attack, strokes, high blood pressure, arteriosclerosis, those type of things that harden the plaque, the arteries to, you know, produce blood throughout the whole body. Yeah. Also, there's a lot of different ones, but that is the two main categories we deal with at the moment, which is very large also on the island. And there's risk factors that also can lead to chronic illnesses or to developing cardiovascular diseases such as smoking, such as unhealthy lifestyle, obesity, those type of things. Yeah. So we have a very broad scope, and they also are, you know, we're going to add a few more categories to be able to help more. And that is basically it with that. Yeah.
One thing I hear a lot on the island is either diabetes or high blood pressure.
Yes. And
it's like, to me, well, how I hear it even from my family or wherever, it's just common. Is it something that's common on the whole island?
Yes, I think basically the whole world. The reason why diabetes and hypertension and all of those chronic illnesses, there are a lot of lifestyle diseases. You know, what you eat will either fight illnesses or add to it. Okay. And in our clinic, we talk a lot about lifestyle. You can reverse diabetes with lifestyle. Okay? The thing is, the problem is a lot of people don't want to do that work. They don't want to probably monitor the portions they're eating. They don't want to probably cut down on the starches and stuff like that. But diabetes, high blood pressure, they are lifestyle diseases. And I tell all of them, you know, hey, yes, genetics play a role, but the way that you take care of your body, load the gun. that's it. It shoot it off.
Yeah.
So if you're not sleeping adequately, if you're not exercising, if you're not eating the way you're supposed to be eating, if you're not taking your medication, if that's the route you're on, it is very difficult to kind of run away from that, because majority of us already are considered obese.
Yeah.
Even they consider me obese.
Yeah.
So like being already on a higher spectrum of obesity, it also aids to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You had a moment in life, I could remember, you cut all your hair.
Oh yes.
What was the reason for that?
Was I going through that awakening at the time? I don't know. I don't remember. Most probably I was.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
I was
yeah.
bald.
No, I didn't
like,
remember.
but it has happened a few times. Like, it was like one moment, because I have the hypothyroidism.
Yeah.
Hypothyroidism is when your thyroid is not producing enough hormones, thyroid hormones. Thyroid hormones are responsible for our metabolism. It's responsible for our mood. It's responsible for something else. I can't really bring it right now. But the symptoms I was having, I was always cold. Even in the hottest of place, I was always cold.
Yeah.
My nails were very brittle. I had a lot of mood swings. What else? Very constipated all the time. And even my libido, my sex drive was totally like nothing. It was non-existent. And because, again, that plays a very important role in the thyroid.
Yeah.
So it was very important for me to, fix those things. And, it also thinning your hair. So it plays a big role,
I'm glad that you mentioned those signs, because people who may not even be aware, they wonder.
A lot of women do have hypothyroidism, and they like, when they talk about it, they're like, but I feeling depressed all the time. I say like, yes, that is one of the symptoms. Until you regulate that, you're gonna continue to feel.
How did I find out?
All the symptoms that I was having, and they put me on medication one time, and no one ever told me that you're going to have this medication, but you have to change your lifestyle. So I just pop in the medication every day religiously. I tell you, I get sick and tired of being sick and tired. So the symptoms were not getting any better. I was gaining a lot of weight. The weight was fluctuating a lot. And I wasn't getting any better. When I did make the lifestyle changes, before I did that, I had already cut out like dairy and, had already cut out some meat, and I had already started to feel a difference in my thyroid function. And when I went on the alkaline thing, it just knocked it out completely. And I'm not on medication anymore. I'm not on medication for the past 6 years, 5 years. I don't remember. But that really helped with that.
That was the reason you cut your hair?
Well, that one, I think I was going through the spiritual. I just wanted to be reborn in you, and and the hair hold on to energy, I was going through a lot at that time too, and I was just, what, let's get rid of it. It's going to go back whenever it go back. And
it's just hair.
It's just hair. Yeah, for me, it's like whatever. It's like okay, and for me that was basically it.
And apart from that, you're doing wrapping as well. Wrapping.
Yeah, I do wrap my hair. It have different reasons why I would do that. It also, again, your hair, your antennas, the receptors, you pick up on energy, protecting yourself, peaceful. It goes a little further. And I do wrap sometimes, but it's it's a lot. It's a lot, and people think, it's for style only. No, it's really intentional, and sometimes you see it more than sometimes. And when I really are connecting and doing what I have to do, I really just do that part.
Nice.
A question we ask every time before we even go towards the end of the podcast is like, we speak a lot about mental health.
Oh yes.
What does mental health mean to you?
It's funny that you said that, Today I had my first appointment with my psychologist.
Oh.
Not that nothing is wrong with me at this current moment, but I said I kind of feel like I'm addicted to evolving.
Yeah.
And I realized some patterns that I want to break. And although all the work that I have done already, I feel kind of stuck there. So I was like, okay, I think I need some tools. I think I need some more understanding. Maybe something, need to unlock from my childhood to break that certain pattern. And as I said, I'm very honest with myself. I'm very big on my peace. So mental health is very important for me. And I do not think it is stressed enough. And again, that's where it goes back to my boundaries too. It all aligns with my mental health. It aligns with my peace. It aligns with what I want for myself. So I think from the time you know those things about yourself, and if you have experienced a lot of the times, mental health, as I said, the brain and the gut have a direct correlation. People that are easily depressed or, those type of thing, anger or whatever, by changing their lifestyle, eating more fruits, eating more veggies, going for walks, they already start to come out of that, okay? And I think as much as possible, we need to really, as much as possible, we really need to promote that part, because again, they're like, okay, take a pill, do this, do that. No, but as I said, if you're just taking a pill and not doing any intentional work, it's very difficult, and it's easier said than done. It's easier to say, oh yeah, change the thing, and then the depression on this. No, but it helps. It helps a lot, because when I am eating crappy, I feel my lowest. I'm very low vibrational. Like, I don't want to move on my bed. I'm very snappy. I'm like, no. But then when I eat in my fruit and all my vegetables, and, I'm not drinking much alcohol, and I'm really drinking my water, and I drinking my herbs, and I drinking my sea moss, you could be there cussing, and you could top me up my face, and I'd be like, all right. That wasn't necessary, though. But if I'm in that low vibrational state, and the thing is, I identify it very quick. So, like, I'd be like, okay, then, no.
That's good.
As I say, I'm very self-aware. I identify it very quick. I'm like, nah, time to fast. And I do fasting periodically, because, again, I did 3 months, so a week wouldn't hurt me. So I do fast periodically, and I'll be like, okay, nope, we need to reset. And I feel it all, my knees start to hot, and my big toe start to do something. I like too much meat, too much this, too much that, And I am planning to go back on my alkaline journey. Maybe not as strict, but at least 80% of it, I felt my best on that. That was the best thing for me. So I know it's going to be a little challenging, because being off of it for quite some time,
to go back
and eat the chicken, But I just want to continue.
It's for yourself.
Have that holistic approach.
So thank you so much for being on the podcast. We went through a lot of different topics. Before we end, sometimes we ask the person, the guest, if there's anything that they would like to leave with the listening audience.
What I would like to leave with the listening audience is, change is there for everyone. You can always have a moment of evolving. Do not be afraid of stepping out of your comfort zone. Do not dim your light to please anyone. And also, make your boundaries stronger than your emotions.
That's really,
Thank
really
you.
good. Yeah, really good.
And if you watch it this far to the end, please remember to subscribe, as that is our indication to know that you all are enjoying these, and for us to continue these sessions.
Like I say here on the talk, Jackal imagery, capture the moment, watch it forever. See you guys in the next episode. Bless.